Hey folks, Vic here for thepracticalprepper.com. Well, this is the little highlight video that I'll throw up there for the 2012 elk season in Colorado, and it was pretty eventful. There were a lot of curveballs that kind of came out of left field just before the trip. One, finding that my main water lines in my trailer had frozen and broken every main water line in the trailer. So the trailer in essence had no water. Obviously there's a point in there that holds water and didn't get drained and broke the piping. So now over the next couple months I'll work on repiping all that in and putting it in polytube that can handle the expansion and contraction of freezing should that happen. Also I'll probably add a secondary drain valve so that I can try and get all the water even at the lowest point out of the line so I don't run into this issue again. The other issue is I had the refrigerator wouldn't work. It worked at startup and then it quit just before I left. So I threw everything in an ice chest with some ice and fired it up, and sure enough it started working, and then it quit the last night I was there. Got up Sunday morning and sure enough it had quit. Or Saturday morning, sure enough it had quit. So since I still had the ice chest with all the ice, all the food went back in the ice chest. So there's things that you know are going to run into that you're going to have to just work around. The water solution was, getting my 5-gallon jerry cans with my caps, that my dispense caps on them, and I keep those for a variety of reasons. This is just another one on the list. Got 3 of those, filled them up, and set up the trailer so everything would work right, including the toilet facilities, which was nice. And I actually did that with one of the dispensings for liquid detergent, like for Tide. Filled that up with water, rinsed it out real good, filled it up with water, and then you would use that as the flush water every time you use the holding tank. So worked out fine. It's just workarounds that you have to do. A couple things that I want to touch on real quick before we finish up with the highlight video is I'd mentioned in a previous little piece of video and report before I left that I wanted to try a couple things. One of them was the swivel stirrups, and these of course are designed to hang straight so that your knee doesn't have the torque on it. What I found, or what I learned, and luckily I have 2 sets of these oversized stirrups. What I learned was that on the fenders of the saddle, fenders will typically come down, they'll narrow, and then there's the strap portion which goes underneath that fits through here. What happens is this particular mounting system is about 2 to 3 inches lower than your conventional stirrup mount. So what happens is you need that adjustment up in the fender. As you're adjusting it up, what happens is you run into the wide wall of the fender and it won't adjust up any higher. So if you're going to use these, you've got to make sure that you've got more fender height to clear it, or you need to switch it back to the standard. What I use are the oversized stirrups. I get rid of their stirrups as soon as I get the saddle set up. So a little bit disappointing. Part of the problem was that I did not have enough leg or bend in my knees to actually bring myself up out of the saddle, either to sit back over the horses, either be up over the shoulders if we're going uphill to help him climb, or back over his hips going downhill to help him stabilize as he descends. So that was a little scary, so I switched him right out. We do so much vertical that not being able to get back in the saddle is very uncomfortable. So something to look out for. The other thing that I had tried was Cashel has, since our horses are about 16 hands, they're pretty tall, Cashel made an extended stirrup, and it's just a single, and the idea was that this particular portion, which is the holding bag combined, this strap goes over your saddle horn. It hangs around the far side of the saddle, and this particular stirrup comes down off the back and hangs much lower than your standard saddle stirrup. So you can actually step into this with a right boot and step forward and get over the center line of the horse, put your left foot in it, and then swing over. I think this is easier on the horse when you get out on some of the hillsides that are really pretty steep. The easier way to mount them, of course, is to turn them around so that your mount side is uphill. That doesn't always work in areas. I thought this was a pretty good method. The problem was that this piece of strap that goes from this buckle to the stirrup right here, this section is not long enough. This stirrup ended up hanging about an inch lower than the other one, which to me is not enough. This should have gone a lot farther. So I'm going to write them and ask them if they have a longer descend strap here. Basically, I need one about, I don't know, 6 to 8 inches longer to make it significant enough to ease mounting when you're out in the field. So those are a couple things that I ran into. I did get a chance to, of course, start using my Wyoming saw this year. And guys, if you don't have one of these, you need to get this thing. It's well worth every dollar. It's going to last forever. And, you know, the components are so simple. You put this little puppy together. We actually had, you'll see in the video, last couple minutes or so, Brian was shooting some footage. And there was an area to get back into where my cow was. We had to make a little trail so that when the panners are full and we're getting the horses out, the panners don't hit the trees. I actually used the saw portion of this and went in and just took out limbs of trees on some of the scrub oak really, really quickly. Got it out of the way, and then I used the fine one to cut through bone and stuff on my animal. It works tremendously well. Something you really got to think of. And if you go to the website and you go over to the gear page, gear tab up on top, hit the gear tab, these are listed down in there for field tools. So highly recommend them. Other than that, it was a great season. We had a lot of fun. You know, there's one thing when the guys get out and you can sit around the fire in the night after having a great meal, you know, with a cocktail and cigar and just enjoy the stars. It was nice. A couple roaring campfires a couple nights. It was outstanding. So, you know, you really learn a lot of things with outdoor activities, and it just doesn't have to be hunting. It could be snowshoeing, it could be skiing, it could be cross-country skiing, it could be any outdoor activity. We're avid fly fishers, and we'll, you know, pack into an area. You learn a lot about the equipment that you have, the clothes that you bought, how it works, how it doesn't work, and you can make corrections before you get into that preparedness where, let's say our heat fails and I need to go to some of my really cold weather clothes. I already know how they function. I already know that they work, and I know how to layer them. So with all that, you know, I hope you enjoy the highlights, and we will see you on the backside. Thanks. Not unusual. Outside of Meeker, sheep drive. They drive them down the street. This is deep. Oh crap. We are in the middle of this. Okay. Meeker, Colorado. It's November 12th. Just got in. Camp is set. Brian's got his little tent up. I've got my excellent trailer. We're ready to rock and roll. And let me pan to the right. And if you look, you can see a saddle over there. Straight up ahead. Right next to that saddle is about 50 elk sitting up there. Well, here's a whole herd of elk we just ran into. And I'm zoomed in about as far as I can go. There's a big bull. I think he's right there. Move around. They're still coming down out of the tree line. But this is a lot of elk. And there's some really nice bulls in there. They're clear over here to the right. And that's the last of them there. Just a tremendous number of elk. And like I said, we've seen just tons running up the hill. So they're from this group as a reference straight up that hill. And there's lots of elk back in that area. But there's a nice big bull, and he's laying on the ground right there in the center. And there's some other satellite bulls around. Nice group. Hey, good morning folks. Vic here for the PracticalPrepper.com. It's a very quiet day here in Colorado. It's the 13th of November. We got into camp yesterday. Pretty much got camp set up, which was nice. Nobody was here. Got the campfire set up. Ran into town, got our horses, so they're here. I got a horse I had 2 years ago, Alf. Great little horse. So I'm real happy to have a horse I'm very familiar with back again. They had him in stable when we got here. So we got the horses up yesterday. They brought them up. Here we got our alfalfa and our grain for the week. So we're pretty well set. We're actually looking at a herd you can't see from here, but right over there is we've seen about 30 cows and at least one shooter bull. It's 5x5. So the animals are in here, they're moving. But here's the thing, I wanted to show you, I did a video with some preparations and I talked about getting the different stirrups. These are the oversized stirrups I use, but something else I was getting is I was getting the little parts here that are all machined aluminum, and what they do is they rotate the stirrup to whatever orientation your foot's at, so that it relieves pressure on the knees from days of riding. Up and down the hills, especially down hills when you're up on the stirrups and you're back in the saddle, it'll put the most work on your knees, and over a few days it really amounts to a lot, and me at 56, it means a lot. So what I wanted to show you was, this is my saddle for the trip. They actually gave me a damn nice saddle this year. These are the conventional stirrups that come with it. See, I've already got this one off. But they lay, if this bale were the horse, they lay against the horse. The ones that I have, that I put together with my other stirrups, what these will do is when I change these, they will orient the stirrup. So instead of being against the horse like this, they will actually be oriented something of this nature, so that my foot and my knee doesn't have that torque. Because what happens is, when you put your boot in, you have got constant torque inside on your knee. And as you put more pressure, you get more torque. So this helps alleviate a lot of the knee problems, and I beat up my knees with everything you can think of for so many years that preserving them at this point is absolutely essential. Now they're pretty simple. There's a little set screw here where you orient the main buckle with the turn, so you can pivot this kind of whichever direction. If you want it straight on, or if you want a little bit of a turn in it, whatever suits your fancy, you can adjust them for that. It takes a little time to kind of reset the saddle up here, but basically you pull out one screw, slide this bar out. I'm going to come up to the saddle, I'm going to pull this one off, and we'll just get rid of that. The new one is going to lay right in place. Make sure I get this oriented just right. There's a long way and a short way. Slide the bolt back through. Tighten that down. Then we're going to flip this back up. We're going to rebuckle this just like it was. So now as it sits on the horse, you can see your foot's going to go in at right angle to the horse, and it's really going to help your knees. I'm going to test these out for the trip and see how these do, and get back to you post-trip. We'll see how they work out. But I think these are going to be a big help. The other thing I'm going to use is I'm going to use a stirrup assist on some of these hills. You can there's a little package I have for stirrup assist, and it hangs over the horn and gives you a loader stirrup. It's a little easier on the horse's back when you put one foot in on the lower stirrup and then step forward onto him. Most places that we've rented horses have talked about using a ladder or using a stump. Get yourself an oak stump, pine stump to step up on to help the horses back when you mount them, and that may help on the hills. So that's it for now. This is our free day, so we're going to go back and look at an area that has produced bulls for us before. I've got a bull tag. My partner Brian has a cow tag this year. But we're seeing animals and we got some snow, so if that pushes them, we'll hopefully get into them and hopefully bring a bull and a cow. If it looks really good, there's also here in Colorado generally excess cow tags available for out-of-staters like myself and Brian. They're about $354. But if you kind of figure that you're already here and figure out how much meat $354 would buy you, I think you'll be surprised. It won't buy as much as you think. And if you take one of these nice big cows, and these cows are just huge. I can't believe how big they are this year. I think they've been down in the fields, they've been eating the alfalfa, and God, they're just tremendous. And from a distance with spotting scopes, they just look huge. So I can't wait to try to bring one of these big cows down, or one of these good-sized bulls, and get some meat in the freezer. It's time to restock the protein. We're running out. So anyway, with that, good hunting, and we'll get back to you with how all this works out. Take care now.